What's going on, everyone? Welcome to this video. So today I thought, you know what, let's talk about something. Let's just chat about something. So we're going to talk about Daphne and Velma. Now that everyone's just left. All right. Okay, not that Daphne and Velma, this Daphne and Velma. So at the beginning of this year, the novel Daphne and Velma, The Vanishing Girl released, and I picked it up. I read it when it came out. It's been a few months. And there's even a second one out now that I need to get. But I actually had a few people ask me to talk about this, and I just haven't quite gotten around to it. So, you know what? Let's talk about this Daphne and Velma novel. So, this is a decently sized novel. It's about Daphne and Velma. It takes place in Crystal Cove when they're still in high school. They're teenagers and everything. And it is not the Scooby gang that you really remember. Velma is kind of struggling in her life, and her family is struggling financially. Whereas we have Daphne, who's just super rich, but she's really mean to Velma. She doesn't really care about Velma or Fred or Shaggy or anyone except her. And then Fred, we barely even talk about Fred in this book.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because
And there's Shaggy, and he's popular for his parties that he doesn't actually attend. So the Scooby Gang is very different within this book, but I thought it was a really cool dynamic to begin with. It was a cool kind of new take on these characters, and you know, they felt almost a little more real than in any of the TV shows or movies that we've seen them. I did really like getting some of the backstory for all of them to kind of see why they aren't together necessarily in this book, why they're not Mystery Inc. And it almost seems like, at least from finishing this book, that they're slowly becoming Mystery Incorporated. It's starting with Daphne and Velma kind of forming it. And like I said, this book does take place in Crystal Cove, but it's kind of an altered Crystal Cove. This doesn't totally feel like the one from the Mystery Incorporated series, because like Shaggy has all this money and lives in this giant house, and Velma lives in an apartment, and you know, Fred is just Mr. Popular. It's not the same Mystery Incorporated, and so this definitely does not take place during the normal Scooby-Doo continuity. Now, this book definitely is a little more for an older audience, probably, you know, like a teen book more say. There is some language here and there, which I kind of thought was interesting for Scooby-Doo, but you know, it's a new take on these characters, and it was just kind of an interesting little added thing that I felt like made the characters a little more real at times. For the overall mystery, you know, it's the Vanishing Girl. It started out really creepy, I felt. Like, the beginning of the book is kind of a cold open, kind of like what we see in a lot of Scooby-Doos, and it was a really kind of creepy cold open, but it really grabbed you. It was like, oh, well, now I gotta know what the frick just happened here. So I thought it was a really cool overall mystery. Again, the mystery aspect kind of took slow to really get into and solve, because we had to have all this backstory and kind of catch up with these characters, with Daphne and Velma, and why they aren't necessarily friends, and then we had to have the story about them coming together to solve this mystery. Now, the story does somewhat feel familiar. It does kind of feel almost reminiscent of the Daphne and Velma movie, but definitely is a better take, I feel. I did enjoy the Daphne and Velma film, but I felt like this almost was like the Daphne and Velma we would have wanted in a movie if they had done it this way. This is definitely the version I would have wanted. Now again, this does kind of take place in an altered version of Scooby-Doo, and so even though they are in Crystal Cove, we don't really get to hear or see about these other characters that are in the Mystery Incorporated series within this book. And so again, it's really not connecting to the original Scooby-Doo, to like the actual Scooby-Doo continuity. It's kind of its own thing, and I appreciated it for that. I'll say it was really weird reading this because like I heard the characters' voices in my head whenever I was reading it, which was a lot of fun. It was really interesting. But again, they were kind of different versions of these characters, and so sometimes they would kind of do stuff or say stuff that I wouldn't necessarily think of each character to do, and it just kind of was like, oh, whoa, this is definitely a new take on these characters. And so it was kind of fun to see these characters that I know, that we know and love, do different things, kind of go their own ways. Again, we didn't really see much of Fred in this. We kind of heard about him, saw him a little bit. We definitely saw more of Shaggy and Scooby, but here is a shocker. At least in this book, I've not read the second one yet, and apparently there's a third coming. Scooby-Doo does not talk.
They ask you how you are, you just have
Scooby-Doo is a normal dog. And that was weird. So I mean, overall, I really enjoyed this book. I really do want to get the second one and read it. I've heard good things about it. I heard that the second one's not quite as good as the first one, but it's by a different author actually. The second one is by a different author. So I'm interested to see kind of how it plays out, because this book does leave off on a cliffhanger. It definitely really set up for another book, and so I'm really interested to see how the next author kind of follows up from what happens at the end of this book and kind of continues on with the story. So I'm gonna have to pick that one up and read it. But just from the first one, I really recommend this book series. Again, it's decently length, but it's not like super long, you know, and so I felt good about finishing it, you know, like, hey, I read a book. So I definitely recommend it. If you happen to come across it at the store, I'd say pick it up, read it. You know, it's a good read. If you can find it at a library, maybe read it or buy it digitally. I don't know. I don't do books digitally, but if that's your forte. So again, overall, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was a fun new take on these characters and a really interesting story. Actually, I remember reading and getting to like who was behind everything that was going on, and I audibly had like a no, I liked you, like, oh, I was so upset with who it ended up being because I trusted them too much, I liked them too much. And so, oh, I don't know if anybody that has read this feels the same way, but oh, that ending, I was just like, no, I trusted you too much. So, but there you go, guys. I just want to give you kind of my thoughts on the Daphne and Velma the Vanishing Girl book. Let me know if you guys have read it in the comments down below, and let me know if you've read the sequel yet. I need to pick up the sequel. I need to read it and see what happens next. So that's gonna do it for this video. I appreciate everybody watching, and yeah, go read. I sound like a teacher. Go read, everybody. That's gonna do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye!